Hello everybody, in this tutorial I'm gonna show you how to do this girl illustration. Remember, join monthly brush club if you would like to get all the resources I am using during the tutorial. First of all, when you open the illustration pack, you will have access to the texture paper, brushes, and the color palettes. Let's start by opening the texture paper. When using the texture paper, just remember that we always draw in the layer underneath. These are the colors we're going to be using, and these are the brushes. Let's start with the sketch, and I'm going to be using the pastel tip smooth. I'm going to draw a circle, and then I'm going to do a semicircle right underneath to draw the girl's body and head. As you can see, I'm doing very simple shapes. I just want to get all the proportions right before I go into the details. For the head, I just do the fringe, and then I did 2 wiggly lines for the long hair. Then I'm gonna do an arm, and as you can see, I'm not doing fingers or any details, just the arm and kind of like a square shape for the hand. I'm gonna do a line for the top, through the ear, and then I'm gonna start adding more details, as for example the head that goes at the front. And then once you're ready, you can start rubbing out all the lines that you won't be able to see because they overlap to each other. Also at this point, I like to do my lines a little bit better, multiplying as you can see here, just making everything looks a little bit nicer. Also feel free to change any parts that they don't look right. For example, one of the shoulders, they look like a little bit small, so I'm gonna make it bigger. And also I'm making the neck thinner. Just play around until it looks the way that you like. To draw the face and position the eyes, do a line around the ears. That is gonna be where the eyes goes. Divide the face in 2, and then from the lines of the eyes and to the chin, divide it in 2 for the mouth. I like to do a triangle for the nose, and at the bottom of the nose, I do sort of a oval. For the mouth, I do a shape that it looks similar to a drop. I like to do the lip at the top a little bit like smaller than the bottom, but that's just preference. And we're gonna do the girl with the eyes closed, so just draw 2 lines at the bottom. Just make sure that you follow the lines that we previously used. I'm gonna also do the almond shape for the eyes, because then when we color, it's gonna be easier to create that volume. Just keep working on the face until it looks the way that you like, but don't you worry about adding that much details because we don't need them. I'm gonna draw now the eyebrows, and the final thing that I'm going to do are the fingers. Because of the style of the illustration, the fingers, they don't have to be very neat or precise, so don't you worry. Also, I'm doing 4 fingers because the thumb, we won't be able to see them. To finish the sketch, we need to do all the flowers that are gonna be surround the girl. I'm gonna do this in a completely different layer to simplify the process of coloring later. I like to start by adding the main stems around my illustration. I'm just doing some lines around, just like creating a composition that I like. And once I have more or less the stems positioned, I'm gonna create 3 types of flowers. I'm gonna do a circle for some flowers that are gonna be with a shape. Then also I'm gonna do some flowers that they're gonna have 3 petals, as you can see here, very simple. And my third type of flower is gonna look similar as a tulip, kind of. With those 3 flowers in mind, I'm gonna keep repeating those around the illustration. Now the next steps is just connect the flowers to the stems. I like to do it in this way because it's much easier than doing the other way around, at least from my point of view. Then finally, I'm gonna just do some leaves around. Remember, follow the same kind of like direction that you're doing the flowers for the leaves, so it look more harmonious. Alright, now that we have the sketch, let's start giving it color. Because we have 2 layers for the sketch, I'm gonna hide the flowers and I'm gonna start with the girl. Lower the opacity and then create 1 layer underneath where we are gonna start adding the colors. The way that I like to follow this process, it is 1 layer, 1 color. So for example, now I'm gonna start with the skin. So I'm gonna choose a color and going around all the skin, coloring all the different areas. I'm using the pastel tip smooth for doing that. Because at some point we won't need the sketch, I like to hide it just in case there are any imperfections that they need to be fixed. Let's work now into the hair. So as usual, 1 new layer. I'm gonna move it right underneath and I'm gonna choose a dark purple color. Just follow the hair lines to create the whole shape. Fix any imperfections that you find and that's it. For the part of the hair that goes in front of the girl, we're gonna follow a different process. Tap the layer of the body and we're gonna use a mask layer. When using a mask layer, what it happens is you can rub out any parts of the shape that you have drawn. In this case, there's the skin, and rub it out, but not permanently. The particularity of this is to rub it out. You, instead of using the rubber, you would use any brush and the black color. And as you can see, I'm rubbing it out, but while I am painting. And then when you go into your layers, you will see that you are rubbing out this into different layers, as you can see here. This way you can always make changes of the rubbing out or like getting back like the part of the skin that you have rubbed out much easily. Let's add now the girl's top. I'm gonna create a layer right on top of the skin and I'm gonna select clipping mask. I will be using an orange color and then just go over the top and color absolutely everything. Don't you worry about the hands or anything else. Then finally for the hands, just create 1 more layer on top and with the same color as you use for the skin, go over it. I'm gonna start focusing more on the face and I'm gonna start with the lips. Just select like a red color and go over all of them. Alright, next, 1 more layer and we're gonna focus on the eyes and the nose. I'm gonna color like the oval shape at the bottom of the nose in a slightly darker color that we have used for the skin. And I'm gonna do the same for the almond shapes of the eyes. Don't you worry if it looks a little bit weird, but trust the process. We're gonna fix that later. It should look like that. Let's keep working on coloring all the elements and now it's time for the eyebrows. I'm gonna select the same color as the hair and just color them. As you can see, the way that I like to work in my illustrations, it's first sketch, then adding all the colors and then texture. So I'm not adding any texture or shadows until I have add color to all the different elements. Just create 1 more layer and in here we are gonna add just the detail lines as for example the nose, also the eyelashes and all these lines that they're gonna make the illustration pop up. To do that, I don't like to select like a very dark or black color. I like to use more like a brownish or purplish one. If you have seen any of my previous tutorials, you will see that I like to keep things organized. So I'm gonna group all the layers that they have to do with the face and I'm gonna call it face. And I'm gonna group all the layers that they have to be with the body, and you will see along the illustration I will keep doing this. Now that we have finished with the girl, it's time to work on the flowers. I'm going to open the layers related to the sketch, lower the opacity, and create one layer on top. I'm going to start with the stems, and I'm going to just do the lines all over around the illustration. Some tips to do the stems of the flowers. It is I like to do the main steps a little bit thicker than the ones that they connect the flowers. Also, another tip, it is to play around with the pressure that you apply in that brush. So I start normally drawing the lines from the main stem, pressing very hard, and then when I go to the leaves or to the flowers, I press more softly, so that will create this gradient from a thicker line to more thinner one. If you remember from the beginning, we have 3 types of flowers, and I'm gonna start with the ones that they're circle type flowers. The way that we're gonna work with these flowers is really simple. I'm gonna work with purple tones, and I'm gonna do little dots. When I do a fair amount of dots, I'm gonna change color, maybe to a lighter one or to a darker one, just creating this type of texture. The flower that I'm doing, it is inspired by the flower of leeks. Instead of drawing the flower over and over, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna swipe left, duplicate the layer, and then with the transformation tool, that it is the arrow at the top, I'm gonna move it around. Then I'm gonna do the same, duplicate the layer one more time, until I complete all the different flowers that they have the same shape. Because all the layers are the same, I'm gonna match them. To do that, just with your 2 fingers, select the first and the bottom layer and just pinch them. And you will see that now all the flowers are in one single layer. Let's go with another type of flower. Create one layer on top. For these flowers, I'm gonna just color the base color, and I'm not gonna add anything else. We will work on them later. Before working on the third flower, I'm gonna just change the names, and I'm gonna color flower 1 to my first flower, flower 2 to the second one, and guess what? For the third layer, we are gonna call it flower 3. And same as we did in the flower 2, I'm just gonna color the base color of the flower, but without adding any detail yet. For the leaves, I'm gonna create one new layer, and I'm gonna drag it underneath the stems, so we will be able to see all the lines that they go on top of the leaves. I'm gonna change the name of the layer, and I'm gonna go over coloring all the different leaves that we have previously drawn in the illustration. Now, before we continue with the illustration, let's group all the layers related to the leaves and the flowers into one group. And also I'm going to create another group with the 2 layers related to the sketch. It is time now to add some texture into the illustration. I'm going to start with the skin. So let's find the layer related to the skin. Let's create one layer on top and make sure that it is clipping mask. Now I'm going to select the Grain Mix Large brush, and using a darker orange, I'm gonna press softly around the neck area. The key it is to press harder where the face and the neck meet, and then softer when it's spread out. Now select the rubber and let's rub out all the area that it belongs to the face, in the same way as I'm doing here in the video. When adding texture and shadows, I like to play with the layer blending modes. So I'm gonna change this one into multiply and also lower the opacity. Also, I'm gonna add some more shadows where the hair goes, right at the top of the face. Let's add some blush on the cheeks to create one layer and with a reddish color. Also with the grain smooth color brush and also with a slightly small size of the brush. Let's paint 2 circles around the cheeks. The tip is not to press really hard, otherwise the color it would be like really strong. I'm gonna change the layer blending mode into color blend as well, and also I'm gonna lower the opacity. I'm gonna start adding texture into the lips. So I'm gonna create one layer right on top of the lips, and I'm gonna select clipping mask. With a slightly darker tone of red and also the grain mix large brush, I'm gonna paint right on top of the lips. That way, when I use the erase tool, I can erase the bottom one and we can create this effect of 2 tones. I'm gonna change the layer mode into darken as well to make the top lip even more dark. Let's go now to the layer of the eyes and the nose. I'm gonna select Alpha Lock, and with the same brush, I'm gonna select like a very light tone. The idea is to add some lights at the top of the eyes. But if you pay attention, I'm not pressing right on top of the eye. I'm pressing a little bit above so it gets more smooth the transition from like light to dark. I'm gonna do the same, but this time for the shadows. So I'm gonna select a darker orange and then press right below the eyes. This is a quick and simple way to add some volume into the eyes. Something that I like to do just because I like the effect that they create, it is in the layer where we previously draw the nose and also the lashes. It is to get like another light color and go over all the lines again. For the eyebrows, just select Alpha Lock and draw some lines in the opposite direction out of the face, as you can see here in the video. I realized that I forgot to do the line inside of the ear, so I'm gonna go back to the previously layer where I drew the nose and the lashes, and I'm gonna do just like a little letter C over there. I want to add some textures now in the clothes of the girl, so I'm gonna select Alpha Lock, and with the same tone of orange as I used before and the green color brush, I'm gonna just go over that. With the pastel tip smooth now in exactly the same layer, I'm gonna do just a pattern just to make it more interesting. Let's focus now on the hand. So let's find the layer and select Alpha Lock. We're gonna do some shadows, so I'm gonna select a darker color and also the green color brush. I'm gonna press and add some shadows right at the bottom of the arm. And then using the pastel tip smooth, I'm gonna just add some lines in between the fingers. I'm not gonna do nails or anything like that because I don't want to bring that much attention to the hand. Let's move on now into the hair, which is my favorite part of the illustration. And what I'm gonna do now, using the pastel folk thick, it is to just correct the edges of the hair to make them more, not realistic, but I think it look more interesting. Just go around all the edges of the hair, following the shape that you have previously drawn. Feel free to use as well the pastel folk pressure, which is really similar, but just the hair, they're like much tinier than the other. For the section of the hair that goes in front of the girl, if you remember, we previously used a mask layer. So the way to work on that, it is, let's select the same brush as we had, one of the pastel folks, and then instead of the color of the hair, let's go into pure black. That way you can start like working on that very easily. Let's start adding some texture. So let's open the hair layer and select Alpha Lock. The brush that we're gonna use, it is the green color. And what we're going to do, we're going to add some light at the top and shadows at the bottom. So with a pinky color, we're going to go over the top of the hair. And then with a darker purple, we're going to go right at the bottom. You can emphasize and add more shadows or like more dark colors around the right side where the hair goes behind the girl. Let's add now the hair lines. I'm going to create a layer and I'm going to select clipping mask and using the pastel tip smooth. The key now it is to follow the direction of the hair and create different sections. So for example, as you can see now, I'm starting with the top of the hair, and with just 3 lines you can start seeing how the hair goes. Then I'm going to bring those lines up to the bottom, making like some waves. One of the keys, it is like the lines, instead of overlapping each other, they just touch. That way we will create small sections of hair that they will make things easier later. I'm going to zoom in so you can see that much better. As you can see here, when I'm doing the lines, some of the waves they touch to each other. For example, here you can see like there is one section and one section over the top. Let's follow this process because also that way it will create the effects of a curly, wavy hair. Keep it simple and don't add too many lines yet. This one, they're going to be the main lines. Let's create a new layer, and with a darker tone of pink, I'm going to fill it up all the different sections. As you can see, these lines are also much thinner and I'm pressing so much softer than the ones that I previously did. The key it is to follow the direction of the hair and the directions of the section that you just have created. Now I'm going to go into the layers, I'm going to lower the opacity and change the layer blending mode into screen. Let's create one more layer right at the bottom, and this time we're going to use a very dark color. And what we're going to do, it is exactly the same as before, just draw some lines in between all the previous ones. Also, to make those lines even darker, let's change the layer blending mode into multiply. The head is now done, so let's group all the layers to keep all the layers organized. I'm gonna just like call this group hair, and we can move on to the next step of the illustration. That is going to be all the flowers and leaves. Let's start with the leaves now. So let's find the layer and select Alpha Lock. The first step is gonna be just to add some texture in all of them. So I'm gonna select the same color as I previously used in the leaves and the gray mix large brush, and I'm gonna go all over them. Now I want to add some light, so I'm gonna select a lighter color, and with the grain smooth color, I'm gonna add like a very little touch in the tip of each leaf. Finally, I'm gonna add some shadows. So I'm going to select a dark green, and at the bottom of the leaves, in the area where they connect to the stem, I'm going to add some darkness over there. Let's do now the flowers number 2. And as you can see, we're going to find the layer and we're going to select Alpha Lock. Let's add some light and shadows. And for that, the grain smooth color, same as before, I'm gonna add some light at the top with a lighter pink and some shadows at the bottom with a darker one. Now with the pastel tip smooth, I'm gonna do some lines in between just to create some texture. Make sure that you follow the direction of the petals. And now look, I'm gonna create one layer right underneath, and with a darker color, I'm gonna make another petal right in the middle. When you have your petal done, select Alpha Lock and we are gonna add some shadows. So I'm gonna take the same brush as before and with a darker color, I'm gonna add some shadows at the bottom and then with a light color right at the top. It's exactly the same process as before, but just it is like a slightly darker petal, and also the lines we're gonna make them with a purple color. Instead of drawing the flower over and over, what we are gonna do is to merge both petals into one single layer, and then with the lace tool, I'm gonna cut out the flower. Just go around and make sure that you press the gray circle to cut it out. With just 3 fingers, just swipe down and select Cut and Paste. That will bring your flower into a completely different layer. Now it's very simple, all we have to do is to duplicate the layer by swiping left, duplicate, until we fill it up all the flowers that they look exactly the same as this one. Also, because I don't need the layer where all the flowers are, I'm gonna just hide it, just because it's just easier. And I'm gonna keep duplicating the flower until I fill it up all these spaces. When you finish, just merge all the layers into one single layer. And the layer that I hid before, I'm gonna just delete it because I don't need it anymore. Let's work now into our third flower. The process is gonna be super similar. Just select Alpha Lock first of all, and then we're gonna add some shadows and light. With the grain smooth color, just add some shadows at the bottom and some light at the top. Then with the pastel brush, I'm gonna just add some lines, just creating the texture of the flower. I recommend you to start with the petal at the center, it's gonna be much easier. I'm gonna create a layer underneath, and then with a darker color, I'm gonna draw 2 more petals, actually 3 more petals at the back of the flower. And following the same process, Alpha Lock again. Let's get the grainy brush that we used before and add some light at the top and some darkness at the bottom. With the pastel tip smooth, let's add just some more lines in the center just to create this like petal texture that we are always doing. And doing exactly the same, just get both layers and merge them into one. And let's duplicate the layer, but first let's cut out the flower. With your 3 fingers, swipe down, cut and paste, and we will see that the flower, it just goes into a completely different layer. Just delete the other one because we don't need it anymore. And let's duplicate it and move it to the space where we need another flower of those. Once you have all the flowers that you want, just merge them into one layer. We're about to finish the illustration. We just have to work on the background and adding just a couple more details, but we're nearly there. I'm gonna create a layer right at the bottom, and let's select the gray mix large and a pinky very light color. Let's go over all the background. Because my screen is really light, you cannot really tell, but I pop up like here on the left, the texture or how it's meant to look like. I think the illustration needs something else, so what I'm gonna do with the pastel tip smooth and with a slightly darker tone of pink, similar to the one of the background, I'm gonna do some more leaves and stems just to add more details and make the background a little bit more interesting. I'm not even sketching or anything, just improvising and see what spaces there like and fill, and just adding some more leaves around. I want to add even more leaves, but at the front of the illustration. So I'm gonna create a layer on top, and I'm gonna follow exactly the same process and do some leaves in this area over here. I'm doing everything in the same color, just because I don't want to take that much attention from the rest of the elements. The very final step is going to be to make the sleeve into alpha lock. And with the pastel tip smooth, I'm gonna just do a line, a white line in between. Same as before, because the screen is really light, you cannot really tell, but here on the left, you can see how the illustration it will look like. I completely forgot that the stem is on top of the hand, and I don't like that. So I'm gonna just find the stem layer and with the rubber, just rub it out to make it as it looks like it's, the girl is grabbing the stem with her hands. And that's how the illustration looks like. I hope you really enjoy it and you play around and use the different textures and it was easy to follow. Please, if you do it, tag us at School of Illustrations so we can share your art with the rest of the community. And also remember that if you are part of Monthly Brush Club, you can access to all the resources that I'm using as part of the different memberships. Also, in the student tiers, you can see here, if you send me the illustration, you can also get a personalized feedback of it. Thank you and see you next month in the next tutorial. Bye!